Again, I don't know if anybody else will be coming out. I'd like to thank you guys for coming out today. It was really awesome. I love getting to work with new clubs, new kids, and everything. So really nice work today. I was really impressed with all. I was really impressed with a lot of stuff you guys had to do today. So again, if you guys have a question about recruiting, college, anything you guys possibly have, you guys can feel free to ask. Like I said, you guys have just alone from him, the experience that he's had has been enormous. National team and everything. So feel free to ask anything you guys got, or we can sit here in silence, and that's perfectly fine too. Because that's usually how it goes. We sit here for like 30 seconds and then.
Deep breaths together.
But if you guys want to start off, I assume there's some questions since you guys came out here. For anybody.
Yes.
It's a microphone, by the way.
Okay.
You good?
How do you get ready? Like you're walking to get ready to spike. What's your footage there? Or to jump?
Jordan?
Like where do you put your feet when you're like ready to jump or ready to spike?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on each situation. Yeah, if I'm going, well, I guess maybe not. It's usually a 4-step approach for me. I don't know if you guys have talked about that with your teams. There tends to be 2 different kinds of approaches. There's a 3-step and a 4-step. 3-step is usually a little bit quicker for when you kind of need to, maybe you're transitioning, it's a fast play, you need to really get there fast. That's just quick, right, left. That's your kind of typical they teach you when you're young. But if it's anything out of system or you have a long approach, maybe you're in receive, that usually turns in, for me at least, into a 4-step. So that's where instead of just left, you get your first step to kind of direct yourself, right? So say that ball's inside, I'm gonna take my first step inside, and that's when I explode with my left. So it's usually 2 slow steps into 2 fast steps. So you got your right to guide, your left to plant for the step close, and then you explode in 2 quick steps. And what I'm always doing is, especially on high balls, that's what we kind of worked on in our court. Especially high balls, my job is to solely time it right to where I can hit the ball at my peak as high as I can, slow to fast, and you got to get under the ball. That's the biggest thing. You got to get under it. You got to make sure your step close is really strong planted, and then you go to the ball. So, I mean, I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, let me know. But
Does it depend if you're a righty or lefty?
if you're a righty, you do what I just said, and if you're a lefty, it's just reversed. So if you're a lefty, let's see if I can. It's right, left, right, and then you go into your. So for a righty, it's left, right, left. Opposite for your left, right, left, right.
He's right. He's correct. From an expert, lefty expert here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, don't worry about it. Any other questions? Any questions about recruiting? Who here wants to play at the next level here? College, at any division. Have you guys, for a lot of you guys, I know the biggest thing that, as I come back, because since we're overseas a lot, as we come back, I see a lot of new programs popping up. So make sure you guys really take, what's the word I'm looking for? Take advantage of that. Make sure you send your video out to anyone. The biggest thing that we see with a lot of people, a lot of kids, okay, some of us are fortunate to kind of get the looks from coaches, but as we go on, if you're not getting the right looks that you want to, don't be afraid to send it out there. Put a big net out there, and that way your dreams will come true, as they say. Any other questions here, boys?
Or girls.
Or girl. Anything.
If you think it's a stupid question, ask it. Like, it's not a stupid question.
Go for it.
How do you pass?
How do I pass?
Yes.
What do you mean? That's a loaded question right there. For me, well, I have terrible technique. I'm being completely honest with you. This is my theory on passing here. My theory on passing is no matter what your technique is, if it works, don't fix it. A lot of the time, people, I don't know how long meets at Stanford. Do they teach you guys like to kind of hold like your platform and like kind of push and whatnot, or just kind of whatever works?
They had like so what they would teach is like from the past, there was no like holding. It was more like finishing, almost like they would call it breaking your platform. So they would literally either finish off to get the ball to take some power off the ball, I guess.
Yeah.
Or they would break it if it's like an easier ball. They would get that platform to finish more out. I have a terrible platform, so it's tough for me to touch my elbows. But to finish more of like as much as like with a big platform, they would break it like almost like that.
Yeah.
So there's different ways, I guess, they taught it.
I think, yeah, because I know we played like BYU and they're always taught to kind of here and here. I think whatever works for you works for you. For the biggest thing, I think any level is the feet. And you hear that a lot, but like the way I see it is if whatever works for you and you get your feet around for the ball, whatever, like I said, sometimes it's right behind it, sometimes side of it. Whatever you can do to get that ball up there, get that ball up there. And I think that a lot of times, and I think this goes for every position, coaches try and change you, and you should not be open to changing. But if you know what works for you in a very positive mindset way, stick with it and get better at that. Rather than sometimes I try to change completely. I'm like, what am I? And I forgot how to pass. But just whatever works for you works for you.
You have to realize, like, across the world, the technique in passing is different everywhere you go. There's so many different techniques, so there's not always one right answer. But one thing that you can do to ensure it'll be is they call this the sweet spot, right? Right on your arms, right here. A lot of people focus so much on technique and stuff that it's hitting weird arms, it's doing all this crazy stuff. Bottom line, go back to square one, get it on your sweet spot, and then from there, get it to target. Just get ball to target. So the technique varies, but overall, you got to get the ball right on your good spot.
On the sweet spot. Whatever works, works. Any other questions? Any other positions? We have a lot of different skill positions here, so if you have anything, fire away here.
What's like a good arm?
A good arm swing? A one that gets kills. I don't know. I mean, as a setter, Joe, what's a good arm? What's your favorite type of arm swing?
Just a hitter. What, like when you're referring to a good arms, to not hurt your shoulder. I think it's important to not put like all the stress and all the power like into your shoulder. I know from a young age how like at our club we were trained, most of your power should be generated from your core, from the center of your body. And so engaging that, I think, takes a little more stress off your shoulder. You see a lot of shoulder injuries come when people have put too much stress on their shoulder. I think you have like also freak athletes like TJ. TJ, he generates so much power, but that's just like his shoulder is kind of funky like that. But for the most part, the more you can use the middle part of your body, the core, to engage that power, take a little bit more stress off your shoulder. I think that's will help significantly with shoulder health. And then as you get older, you guys get to college, like lifting and shoulder mobility and stuff like that will become more important. But at this age, like I would say the fundamentals and the technique of how you utilize your power, I think is the most important thing. And warm up. Because you'll feel it later on.
Yeah, that's true.
Warm up your shoulder.
Anything. Wait, one more. Let's go him really quick.
As an outside, what's the biggest fundamental skill to work on?
Biggest fundamental skill. Is it passing?
Yeah, definitely passing. The thing is, like, so once you get into, especially like international ball, it works that way in college sometimes, but especially international, they like to have different outsides with different skill strengths. So usually it falls into better at receiving, at passing, and better at scoring points. Now, the receiving outside is a little more rare than the score point outside. Therefore, they usually get signed first. They usually make a little bit more money. So I would say, if you got to start anywhere, start with passing. Like that is one skill that not a lot of people have gotten it figured out. So if you can figure out passing, you're on your way.
Anything else? Anything else?
Yeah, how do you like jump higher? Like, how do you practice that? Or like, how do you train? Like, what are like?
Are you talking about like what exercises or like a broad subject?
Like brush up. Like, how do you
A lot of-
get yourself
well,
up there?
First things first, the few times I have to hit, I realize that I'm not going to be jumping like Taylor Sander or any of these guys over here. So that's the first thing. Realizing what you got, you know, and using that to your ability. Now, that doesn't mean put a ceiling on yourself. Some guys go from 14 to, I don't know, 30-inch verticals, right? And the biggest thing is obviously work hard. But at the same time, as you get older, as we kind of talked about, weight program is going to kind of move into that. I know Joe here, I would hear him, I was 12 years old, I'd hear him, he'd wake me up at 6 a.m. or 6:30 every a.m. with his ankle weights on, just thumping on the stairs. And that's how because he wasn't blessed with the height that some guys are. So I know that him, it just kind of weightlifting and would say plyometrics, stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, so Mike Gamal, you guys all know, he is a firm believer. He talks about all the time how the best way to get better at jumping or jump higher is just to jump more. And I actually, to be honest, the biggest jump I see kids make is when they play beach volleyball. And it sounds kind of like ridiculous, but you guys have
That's not
access.
ridiculous.
Going and playing beach volleyball, just being being on a court and playing volleyball and jumping more, I think, is the way that you get better at jumping. I don't think you have to worry about so much at your guys' age, like the lifting and plyometrics. Just, I think that kind of comes naturally, especially as you guys mature and you guys get older. So I wouldn't be super concerned. But
Jump
just go out and play.
more.
Yeah.
Jump more. Play a lot more.
The more
Play
you
grass.
train volleyball, the more you jump. I mean, you could probably ask any of these guys. I mean, at least me, I'm still touching higher every year the older I get. So the older you get, I mean, just that like natural grown development, you're going to jump higher.
80 years old, 70-inch vert.
But I'm still going into my prime. That's my point. You guys are going to develop and grow until you're 28, 29. So biggest thing is just get in the gym and jump as much as you can. Weightlifting programs will work, but I've never done anything specific to jumping. I've just played volleyball.
Just jumped.
And then over the years, I've gotten higher and higher. Now, maybe doing a program would help, and you could definitely look into that, but playing volleyball is, I would say, the biggest part of it.
I think now, too, I'm big. Like, if you look at just international volleyball in general, every level, there's a lot more undersized players who are very successful because I think a lot of leagues understand the other aspects of volleyball. I mean, obviously, you have a guy that jumps out of the gym and flies. Like, that's super valuable. But you just being better at volleyball and overall your skill set and the ball control aspect and playing more volleyball and getting a better understanding of the game, I think is way more valuable than worrying about getting a 4-inch vertical increase, if that makes sense. At the end of the day, that'll come. I think if you guys just play more volleyball, I think that's the biggest thing. Like the short court, all those mini games we were doing today, you guys should be playing that every single day in practice, in your backyard, setting up. I know, I'm sure all these guys, my brother and I would set up this thing in our bedroom volleyball with like a ladder.
Balloon, baby.
And we would go there for hours. Like that type of stuff, you actually learn all kinds of different stuff, like more than you'd realize. And so just playing volleyball, I think, is super important for you guys at this age.
Sure. You got anything, Josh?
I got a question for Josh.
Josh is an answer.
Okay. So, I loved watching you play. I asked you this before, but I want you to tell the kids. So, it seemed like your first 2 years in college, you set the middle more than you set the pins. It seems like that shifted a little bit as maybe TJ got older or something, or I don't know what it was. How do you make that determination on your distribution? Because you can see that you can set either ball perfectly. What's your decision making there?
I mean, I don't know. I think it changes from game plan to game plan. Obviously, you go into the week, you know your team that you're going to play, and you develop a game plan off of that. In our first 2 years at Long Beach, we were trying to establish a different route or a different way of running routes. It wasn't just like the ones, the threes, the back ones. We tried to move things around, and there was a little bit of a trial phase. So for me, it was like, pump the quick because we need to learn it, and 2, teams didn't see it, and we were a little bit more successful. Like I think by first year, Taylor Gregory went on this really long streak of killing almost every single ball for like I think 7 or 8 games. He had the longest kill streak or something like that, or there's some number on that. He had a really high kill streak.
What position?
He was a middle, yeah. My first year, him and Bryce Ewert I had, and they were both really good on offense, and it was like, okay, that's where our bread's gonna be right there. We have pins that can do it. Our pins were young. TJ was young. Kyle was young. I was young, so just trying to figure out offense as well. But our bread was our older guys who were Taylor Gregory and Bryce Ewert, and they had experience and they knew how to play ball and they knew how to run the routes. So those 2 years was like, getting that going was kind of like our biggest thing. And then as time, the last 2 years, we had 2 new middles, in Nick and Simone, and TJ was developing, Kyle was developing, and Bjarne, who was our second outside at the time, he was, he knew his job. He was killing his balls, but he was also passing well for us. And it became like, I could dish the ball out to the pin a little bit more. We were off the net as well a little bit. You know, teams started to serve really well against us. So just kind of matching up against that was,
So
you know.
what your decision making, is it more of what you have on your side of the net or more game planning against the defense across the side of the net?
I think it ebbs and flows between the
You have to
both.
pick one.
I want to say it ebbs and flows between both because there are times where I go into a game, full game plan, like, okay, we got to attack this. And then there's, within that game, it's like, okay, my guy's hot against their best blocker. So I'm going to ride my guy, right? Or I'm going to ride this guy because he's killing this ball. And strategically, they changed up their defense because, you know, they wanted to make up for something. And so I got to change up as well. So to say it's fully one thing, I wouldn't say it's fully one thing. You got to prepare for both and be ready to make those adjustments and be able to ebb and flow between going game plan and then going to your guys. So yeah.
I got one for Joe now, because I don't want him to feel that.
Of course.
Okay. How many of you are taller than Joe? Raise your hand.
Stand up, Joe.
How many of you are taller
Shorter
than
than
Raise your
Gage.
hand if you're taller than Joe. Okay.
Depends what shoes.
I'm taller than Joe.
Maybe.
So I was at a Stanford-Hawaii match at Stanford. I don't know, maybe your sophomore year?
It's my freshman.
Your
I
freshman
only went
year?
there my freshman
Okay.
year.
And I didn't even know he was on the roster for Hawaii, and I see him out there.
Ball boy.
So he's traveling with the team, and I'm like, is he playing libero? Is he playing setter? What's he doing? They had I don't remember the setter's name. Don't say his name. But he was much taller, and it wasn't going well. Were you playing at that time? And
Yeah.
and they subbed Joe in, and Joe changed the whole game. Just changed it completely. I don't remember if you won
No,
or
we
not.
didn't win. We got smacked that weekend.
Okay, but
Sort of.
But it was fun to watch once you went in there. So, with having some young guys that are taller than you, obviously you've been dealing with that for a long time. Talk to these guys about that. Like, how did you get through it and get to where you were despite your size?
Yeah, no, I mean, people ask about that a lot. I would say the only time I think about it is when people ask about it, to be honest. Like, I don't know. No, like, just full, like, transparency. There was definitely moments in my career for various reasons that I was like, oh, maybe I should go play libero, even though I don't like playing libero. But that's just kind of like people push me a lot to go do that.
We're glad you did.
What? Yeah, I was libero with Josh and Jordan on the team for our youth national team. But I just for me, like, playing at whatever height I am, I think the biggest thing I realized too is that, like, the setting position, your job's to side out at the end of the day and, like, win games as much as you can. And so I think, you know, if you look in the international stage, I always refer that they have a really good understanding. Some of the best setters in the world are shorter than I am. And I could go through, like, a list of them, but I think it's super important to understand, like, what the role of each position is. And then from there, I think you can figure out, okay, how can I be better than this person at that? And the role of the setter, if you side out at 75, 80% in a match, but you only block half a block, because when you're talking about blocking numbers for setters of it's like 0.6 versus 0.3, not even a full block, and it's where, you know, a setter could be siding out 10, 15% more than the other setter. And that, I feel like, has way more impact in a match. And so I think, like, just getting the coach to understand that is a big thing. That was definitely for Charlie. I remember my freshman year, Charlie would just talk to me all the time about, like, my physicality. And I'm like, I just work on setting, so I'll work on my jumping, but I just work on my setting, and that's kind of where my emphasis is. And so I think that's been my mindset too, is like, I'm not going to block that many balls and do all this, but I can figure out other ways to be better and be a bigger asset, I guess. I think that's the biggest mindset, is like, okay, what can I be a little bit better at where I, like, lack in some areas, and figuring that out. That makes sense. Yeah. That would be my biggest mindset or thing.
Question.
Let's go with parents.
Question. So since you mentioned money, what kind of range could these kids expect to make if they play after college? And then the other question is suggestions for improving swing speed, hitting arm speed.
Okay.
Or whatever. I don't know what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Swinging faster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, money-wise, the nice thing about playing professionally is, for the most part, at least that I know of, most clubs pay for all living expenses. So we show up, they give us a car, they give us an apartment, pay for your gear, they pay for your travel if you need travel, travel to get there, insurance, medical insurance, that kind of stuff. So all of your kind of expenses that a normal person would have are completely taken care of. So any money you get is yours to do with as you please. Some people like to spend it, others like to reinvest it. So that kind of gives us some financial freedom where maybe you have some friends that are making $70,000, $80,000 a year, but they're spending that on rent, on food, on all these other things, and it's really realistically $20,000 to $30,000. So I wouldn't say that we're making any money that's. It also depends on who you are. Some of us are a little on the lower end of the food chain, so I'm not maybe making as much as someone like Josh is, who's setting in a higher league where they have more money. But while I'm on the lower, our league itself, Germany, usually, depending on the league you're in, they have different budgets. Germany is one of the lower leagues. It's good volleyball, but just not as much money. So that's something that we have to deal with, but it's good enough. And we're playing volleyball, so.
It definitely varies. Like guys can go out and yeah, there's certain guys who go out and make a good amount.
Ask him this way. The highest salary for
Like straight out of college?
The total? Leon?
Oh, in general, Leon's making 1.1, I think, million. I think.
You could be a millionaire if you're one of the best in the world. It's just difficult.
Yeah, some like top guys are making 1.5 to 2 million.
The top 10 guys in the world, I would say, are making over $1 million.
And yeah, the other thing is like Jordan said, they're keeping all that. Like everything's paid for, and so they're not like there's no expense over that. So yeah, it depends for sure where you're at. Some guys will go sign they won't play as much, but they'll sign for more money. It's just every league is a different budget. You can go for more volleyball, you can go for more money, you can go to live somewhere better. It really depends on what your priorities are.
It's really strange. Like there's for example, the league in Israel. It's not a very good league. Nobody goes there to play, but for some reason, this one team just has a ridiculous amount of money, and they'll throw it at players, and you'll make more money than you'll make in any other league. And it's just really weird like that. Some people have money, some people don't. You just kind of got to pick what you want. You want money or you want good volleyball, or if you want both, you could be Josh. But.
And then for arm speed, anyone got arm speed?
The hitter.
The attacker.
I don't know. That's kind of hard because I think I've always had like a naturally faster arm swing than some guys, or most guys. Well, not natural. I grew up playing like all throwing sports, so I played baseball and stuff. So I already had that natural motion down. I would say if you're working on improving it, you can throw a baseball, throw a football, something at an object, and just work on throwing it as fast and as hard as you can. Working on your rotation, that's also a big one. I would say,
Flexibility.
yeah, shoulder mobility is a good one. Right, because like if it gets caught up or it's like stuck in a joint or something, you're not gonna be able to get much out of it. So keeping it well taken care of definitely helps. No, I'm not really sure.
I think
Some guys just have naturally slower arm swings, and that you got to deal with that. That's kind of how it is.
I think knowing how to swing too, knowing how to like mechanically swing correctly is like a big deal. Like I don't know, for a while I've had a pretty bad arm swing just because it was like all shoulder, and I never really torqued into it. I never used my entire body. I never really used my hip to get fully into that swing and to let my arm just kind of fly through there. Like swinging is not just your arm. It's kind of just like letting like that full. It's like the end result, to the whole process. That's your body, right? So knowing the mechanics of it, I think, is going to help a ton. And then, yeah.
Sorry, restart.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I think a big part of it too is what I would always do when I was younger was I would just watch like the best hitters in the world, and I wanted to look like them. So I would just try and mimic their swings, and it looked nothing like it, and it still does it. Like my favorite player growing up was Jiba. I don't know if you know who Jiba is. In my opinion, he's the greatest player of all time, but he's a Brazilian guy, shorter outside about my height, and he was the best player in the world, and I wanted to mimic his arm swing. I never could do it, but I would always practice on that, like, oh sweet, I look like Jiba right now. And I did that with all my favorite players, and then over time, I think that just kind of developed into my own personal arm swing. But I think that's one way you could do it as well, just watching your favorite players. And that doesn't just go for swinging, that goes for anything else. I mean, if you want to learn how to do something, look at the best in the world, see how they do it.
Any questions? My man.
Your YouTube and TikTok name.
Now that is the best question of the night right there. I like it. Hey, it's pretty simple. Out of system. For TikTok's Out of System Official. I think for Instagram as well. YouTube, you can find us on. This is a great way to wrap it up, actually. YouTube, just Out of System. Anything you type in, it should pop up with a pineapple with a light blue logo. We're all going to be featured on here, so if you guys want to check it out.
We're going to send you guys out a code too for the grass tournament we were telling you guys about. If you guys are down, grass volleyball, we'd love.
It's the move.
It's the move.
It's the move.
There's a lot of people getting in the grass scene. It's a cool. We'll have it in Huntington Beach here if you guys are free. It'll be a pretty cool event.
Parents, yeah, June 4th and 5th. 5th is for the youngsters, parents. It's a great way to spread the game. And also, again, check it out on social media. If you guys follow, like, subscribe, you know the whole deal. Come on now, boys and girl. And we also have merch here if you guys want to purchase merch. But if not, you guys are welcome to go. Again, thank you so much for your time, and hope to see you guys in the future. Hopefully June 5th. But yeah, you guys are free to go. If you want some merch, we'll be over there.
We'll be hanging out if you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get a picture or whatever, up to you guys. Up to you boys.